Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So I just watched F1 the movie. Let's talk about it. So F1 the movie, or Formula One, is directed by Joseph Kosinski, who famously directed Top Gun Maverick, considered to be one of the very best action movies of the decade so far. Well, he's back and he's given the Joseph Kosinski touch to yet another very male-centric sector, this time around the world of Formula One, where here we have Brad Pitt and Damson Idris starring as two race car drivers working for the fictional team Apex. Now, Brad Pitt stars as aging driver Sonny Hayes, who is one of the best, the very best to ever do it. He is an incredible driver with amazing instincts and of course years of experience behind him, but he's also a rule breaker. He doesn't do anything by the book and he's always willing to bend the rules to get the job done. Some might even say he's a bit of a maverick. Now, Sonny used to be a Formula One driver 30 years ago, but since an almost fatal accident, he has been working from job to job in all different tournaments. It's only when his former teammate Ruben, who's now a part owner of his own team Apex, calls on him to join the Formula One team so he can help them out of a huge hole that they're in, both financially and also in terms of reputation on the track, that Sonny finally returns to the world of Formula One. But he's not the only driver, because the principal driver for the team is a young rookie called Joshua Pierce, who's portrayed by Damson Idris, and he's none too happy and none too pleased to see this old bloke, this old geezer walking around pretending to be king of the world in his team when he is supposed to be the first driver, and he sees it as a threat to his own career. You know, someone who's just started out and wants to make a good impression in the industry and in the world, but he's got a failing car and he keeps losing his races, and the team hasn't even been able to gain 1 point in the tournament, and so it's been nothing but humiliation. Now, this main team is rounded out by technical director and senior engineer Kate, who is portrayed by Kerry Condon, and she also has a lot to prove as the very first female technical director of any F1 team. So here you have a group of people who have tons to prove. They have huge chips on their shoulder and they are hungry to win. And this film tells the story of how all these folks clamor and claw their way up to the very top, risking everything, life, limb and reputation, to get this team a chance to win the championship. Now, little known fact about me, those of you who have been around my channel for a minute may already know this, but hi, I'm Jean and I'm a huge fan of racing movies. Yeah, that's right, I'm a huge fan of racing movies. It's weird because I'm not really into racing, you know, outside of film, outside of cinema. I did grow up watching quite a bit of Formula One, so I am familiar with the sport, but looking at me, you wouldn't think that I'm like a huge kind of racing girly, unless you don't judge a book by its cover, in which case, good for you, you'll never be too surprised. I'm actually a real big fan. I very much enjoyed 2013's Rush, and I was a huge fan of Ford versus Ferrari. In fact, I even have a review of that on my channel. It was one of my very first reviews that year, and so you can definitely check it out. But then more recently, I sung the praises of none other than Gran Turismo, which was the Sony movie that unfortunately flopped, but everyone who saw it realized and recognized was an excellent film. So I really do enjoy these racing films, and so despite not looking like it, I'm actually the primary audience for this movie. And so it brings me such great joy to say I loved F1. Yes, I did. I loved F1, guys. F1 is actually excellent. Now, like I said, I am a little bit of a connoisseur of this subgenre, and so story-wise, it was nothing shocking or brand new. I've definitely seen similar story beats play out in previous films, like I said, you know, Rush and Gran Turismo, but the difference with Rush and Ford versus Ferrari is that they were historical dramas as well, so they played out the way that they actually happened in history. history, whereas here you have a brand new story that is entirely fictional, but still you do see some similar beats that have played out in previous racing films. But there's also definitely some flexibility to like Hollywoodize it, right, and give us the perfect kind of happily ever after that you may not have seen in the previous films because they were like based on history and facts. But even though the story wasn't anything too groundbreaking and revolutionary, I have to say it was executed note perfectly. I was invested from minute one to the very end. Like, it was just brilliant. It was perfectly paced. Perfectly paced. Despite the fact that this is a 2.5 hour long film, I never felt bored. The momentum, oh yes, all of these racing terms. The momentum was definitely consistent throughout, and I was invested in each and every one of these characters. They did a brilliant job of writing characters who did have different personalities and butted heads and came at things from different perspectives. But when the going got tough, they all came together to work as a team, okay? To work as a team to get the job done. And that kind of teamwork and energy and dynamic made for a really investing story. And I was like on the edge of my seat pretty much all throughout this film. But actually, that's a lie. Actually, I wasn't on the edge of my seat all throughout the screening of this film because I couldn't be, because guess what? I saw this film in 4DX. Yes, I did. If you've been paying attention to this saga, this journey that I've been on, this is the third film that I have seen in recent times in 4DX, and I am just loving it, guys. Like, I am a 4DX girly. I'm going through a 4DX obsession right now. My purse isn't too happy about it because it's expensive as hell, but man, I've been having the time of my life. Like, I absolutely love watching these films in 4DX. This is my third one after Mission Impossible and How to Train Your Dragon, and these films really suit the 4DX experience because it felt like I was in the car with Brad Pitt and Damson Idris. Like, it felt like I was driving with them. And when they were colliding, when they were bashing each other, when they were flipping and turning and getting into all these horrible accidents, it felt like I was in danger. It felt like I was in peril. And when it was raining, it felt like I was in the rain. And when they were showering champagne, it felt like I was getting that champagne on me. Like, I am truly such a huge fan of 4DX. 4DX needs to pay me. IMAX and 4DX need to pay me because I have been such a huge proponent of this format. But genuinely, like, I'm not getting paid by anyone. I'm buying these tickets out of my own paycheck. I'm just having the time of my life with this format. I really am. And these specific films suit the screening so well that it really did enhance the whole experience. I must say. It was the perfect combination of having a good, very well written and engaging story play out right in front of my eyes, but then also getting that added element of the visceral experience of these drivers on the track being reflected onto me. The production of this film was slick as hell. It looked gorgeous and it felt substantial and cinematic. I've been talking a lot about this lately, the difference between these films that feel like they want to be seen on the biggest screen possible. You saw that with How to Train Your Dragon and Mission Impossible, and now here with F1. Now, unlike How to Train Your Dragon, although much like Mission Impossible, F1 came with a huge, hefty price tag. This film is estimated to have cost almost $400 million, which is absurd. That's literally insane and crazy. That pretty much guarantees that it's not going to make its money back. Like, it's going to be a loss at the box office. But guess what? This is an Apple production. This is an Apple TV Plus production, and so they don't even care. Like, they don't care as long as it, you know, ups the profile of them as a production company, and also eventually it will land on Apple TV Plus perhaps, or is it going to HBO because it's also a Warner Brothers film? I don't know what that arrangement arrangement is. But even though it's definitely going to flop at the box office with that kind of price tag attached to it, I'm sure the execs are happy with the film and how it turned out, at least creatively. Now, unfortunately, the gigantic, humongous price tag that was attached to this film isn't even its biggest controversy, because more recently it was revealed that one of the stars of the film that many people were really excited to see here, Simone Ashley, had her entire part cut from this film. Now, this was already upsetting, but people compounded this with what happened in Joseph Kosinski's previous film, Top Gun Maverick, where Manny Jacinto was also supposed to have a role there, but that was cut, and that definitely left a bad taste in people's mouths. People saw it as a sort of trend that Joseph Kosinski and co have of cutting out the parts of people of color in his films and to make more space for the white men that are front and center in these stories. And this entire controversy and headline really upset and angered me. It's definitely in line with the overall trend that we've been seeing both in media but also in politics and society overall, of the move away from diversity and the condemnation and punishment of it in the very few places where it's still present. I hate what's going on right now so much, and people have seen Simone Ashley's exclusion from this film as yet another symptom of it. But if you guys want my 2 cents on the matter, I kind of have an unpopular opinion here, but I don't think that Simone Ashley's exclusion from this film was like necessarily like a racist attack or anything. I don't think it was racially motivated. I'm sorry. I know that people pointed to like Manny Jacinto and but like I don't think that it's really Joseph Kosinski being like no colours. Like I don't think it's gonna be like no more colours in my film. I don't think that's the case, because Damson Idris is a co-lead here. Even though initially I thought he was the lead actually, but he's a co-lead and he's very present in the film. Like he's definitely front and center right next to Brad Pitt here. So I actually don't have that critique of Joseph Kosinski as a director, and I don't think that was the primary reason why Simone was excluded from the final cut. Honestly, after having seen the film, I think that the final cut as it stands is near perfect. Like this is a near perfect version of the story that Joseph Kosinski and co wanted to tell. And really, Simone Ashley's girlfriend character, who was supposed to be attached to Joshua Pierce, Damson Idris's character, would have just been a distraction and really would have just been superfluous to Joshua's storyline. He already has quite a well-rounded storyline as him being the rookie whose progress is being disrupted because first of all he's been humiliated by his team and the car, but also now this new or old new guy comes along and shows him up, and he's faster than him and he's better than him and he thinks he knows better and he's putting everyone at risk, and so he already has a lot on his plate. And if I recall, one of my critiques of Gran Turismo, for instance, was that the main character there had a superfluous love story which really didn't add too much to the story overall, and he was the main character. He wasn't even the co-lead the way that Damson Idris is here in F1. So we already have a love interest in Kerry Condon's character, which we'll talk about in a second. There wasn't really enough room left for Simone Ashley's love interest character to also be in the picture. So ultimately, I'm not furious at Joseph Kosinski and co for excluding Simone Ashley from the final cut of this film. And you know me, like if I smelled something fishy going on, I would have called it out, no problem. Okay, I have no issue doing that. But here, having seen the film and looking at it from like a creative perspective, there really was no room for the character. Like she just would have been an unneeded added character, and that's not a good use of Simone Ashley anyway. So what I'm really angry about is Hollywood at large. I've spotted this pattern many times over the last few years, where you will have these actors who shine bright on these various TV shows, whether they be streaming shows or limited series. You have these actors who have breakout roles on the small screen, and their they're immediately able to elevate. They're immediately able to level up onto huge roles, like Paul Mescal, you know, starring in the Gladiator sequel alongside Denzel Washington, and Joseph Quinn, funnily enough, was right beside him as the evil emperor. The opportunities are really endless for these actors. And why? I mean, of course, they're definitely talented. They broke out in these roles for a reason, but it's also because Hollywood does so much more investing and uplifting and empowering for white actors as opposed to people of color. Like, we've seen it time and time and time again. I mean, speaking of Paul Mescal and Normal People, his co-star Daisy Edgar Jones was the star of last year's Twisters. And then of course you have Bridgerton, which is where Simone Ashley hails from, and Mr. Bridgerton himself has been having a hell of a year. You have Jonathan Bailey popping up everywhere in the Wicked franchise and now in the Jurassic World franchise, and people are just lapping it up. And of course he deserves it. He's incredibly talented. He's been working for years and years and years, and Bridgerton was his breakout role, which has now made him a household name. But his co-star, okay, the woman who was just as phenomenal in season 2 of Bridgerton, Simone Ashley, has not even had a drop of that success in comparison, and it's really heartbreaking to see. And again, we see it again and again and again. You can't gaslight me into thinking that it's not a race issue. Like, please. The proof is in the pudding. The track record is laid out bare for all to see. We have noticed the pattern, and I think that's what everyone is really angry about. But another reason why I don't have too much beef against Joseph Kosinski and co over this controversy is because even though they did act Simone Ashley's role, and it is a bad look for them because she is, you know, a Southeast Asian actress, they did highlight some other roles from other actors of color that were really welcome to this story. Of course, we had Damson Idris, who, like I said, was the co-star here, and he gave an absolutely phenomenal performance. This was a star-making role for him. Damson Idris has been talented. He's been incredible for a very long time. People who have watched Snowfall already know that, and this is yet another actor, by the way, who never got his due. He should have been nominated for so many Emmys for his role in Snowfall, but that just never came to be. He finally gets a chance to shine, and on the big screen at that, and he was absolutely brilliant. He took that opportunity with both hands and gave a phenomenal leading man performance. Actually, he didn't need Brad Pitt there whatsoever. And then some other standouts include Sarah Niles, who portrayed Joshua Pierce's mother. She was phenomenal. And again, the fact that, you know, Joshua didn't have a girlfriend meant that his mother and his relationship with his mother got to be spotlighted a little bit more. So I feel like it was an okay sacrifice to make, because we have yet another woman of color be highlighted in this story, and an older one at that. And then we have Abdul Salis, who portrays the chief mechanic on the team, and he was great as well. He had some lighter comedic moments and just a great addition to the team overall. Again, these are smaller roles, which I don't love. I would love to see, you know, more roles headed up by these actors of color, but when you look across the cast, it did feel, you know, really inclusive and really diverse. And I do think that Joseph Kosinski did an even better job than he did in Top Gun Maverick on this front. Speaking of the performances, we of course need to touch on the star of this film, which it turns out was not Damson Idris, but rather Brad Pitt. And listen, this is a man who is also surrounded by controversy everywhere. But it's not the first time that Joseph Kosinski has directed a film that stars a very controversial actor, come to think of it. But yes, Bradley Pitt is the star of this one, and he did do a phenomenal job. Not gonna lie, he did do a fantastic job. I have to give credit where credit is due, unfortunately, and like he really is that guy. And I was actually shook because I was surprised to see him in like an old man Logan type role where he's trying to like hand over his legacy to a newbie, right, to a rookie at the end. I was surprised to see him in that capacity. I was like, it's Brad Pitt, like how old can he be? And he's like 61 years old. He's 60. Brad Pitt is 61, and he looks good for 61, but like, I don't know, I was kind of shook by the whole idea of Brad Pitt's mortality. Like, am I the only one? Am I the only one who thought that he was like 40 forever? Anyways, so yeah, technically he is perfectly cast for this role, I guess. And the rest of the supporting cast was fantastic here as well. Javier Bardem and Brad Pitt had phenomenal on-screen chemistry together. You absolutely bought that they were lifelong frenemies, and it was great to see them like in action. And then Kerry Condon was fantastic here as well, playing the badass female engineer, the very first female technical director in all of F1 history. Okay, yes, my queen. I did see a lot of similarities to the Jennifer Connelly character in Top Gun Maverick. I feel like they're kind of on par as female characters, but Kerry Condon got a little bit of an upgrade as she was an engineer and she did have like an active role to play on the team. So it was a little bit more like girl boss. It was a little bit more like feminism. Like Joseph Kosinski said, oh, you thought that Jennifer Connelly's character wasn't feminist enough? Okay, I got you. I'm gonna make Kerry Condon a technical director and have her like tap the keys on the keyboard and do some business. Feminism. We won. So guys, all in all, I had a phenomenal time with F1 the movie. This is right up my alley, I'm afraid. I'm a target audience, I'm afraid. I'm going to be giving F1 the movie an 8.5 out of 10. So that's it from me, guys. Now that I told you guys my thoughts on F1 the movie, it's time for you guys to let me know what you thought of this movie and the surrounding controversies down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe to catch new videos coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.